saw just a second ago, Michael from Newark said that they turned off AI in their schools. I think there's a lot of learning that's going to happen over the next few years on these tools and how they support teachers. But this is the process, and we need to be informed, and we need to work with the people that help us be more informed, and that's why we work with OpenAI. So that's why the partnership, but we're trying to figure out how we could make these things work together. But I want to be very clear. When AFT works with partners, we work with partners with a set guidelines. We work with the partners that think towards where we're coming from. And I'm going to start with the fundamental thing that AI will never replace teachers, ever. And AI is not going to replace humans. There was a big story about the other day about how teaching is all about human relationships. AI is not going to get in the middle of that. But AI can support and help teachers and other educators. And that's why we're going to do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is tonight, we're going to have some presentations from educators. And if we go to the next slide, Debbie. Oops, one more. There we go. I want to introduce Peter. I'm not going to bring him on, but I'm just going to say that. Peter works at the Cranston Teacher Alliance in Rhode Island. Michael Harris will help us out of Wichita in Kansas. Tiffany, who works in New York City at the UFT. And again, Kathleen Torgrosa, who works again with the Cranston Teacher Alliance. They're going to help us tonight, and you're going to hear from them a little bit later on. But I'm going to turn it over to Debbie to let she say a few opening words.
I appreciate that, Rob, so much. And I wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We know it's the holidays, it's a busy time. So thank you so much. Really want to thank all of our partners at AFT for helping us put this on. Rob, Kelly, everyone, thank you so much for helping us to craft this and craft it in what we hope is the right way and focusing on the right things tonight, which is including some discussion and some feedback we're anxious to receive from all the educators. I want to thank Michael. Michael, I'm from Wichita too, as you know, so thank you. Tiffany, Kathleen, Peter, thank you so much for your leadership and tonight as well. And I wanted to call out a couple of my colleagues. Mohammed Hussan is on as well. He's going to be co-presenting. I think Johanna Shelton is joining us, as well as Tiffany Lee. So I want to thank my colleagues for joining. And I just want to underscore what Rob has said. We also believe that AI will never and can never replace teachers. We're hoping with some of the material that we'll go through with you and others, why that will become so evident. And again, that's why we appreciate the leadership of AFT helping to really engage educators. We're here to help you help kids. That is our focus here. And we can't do that without your voice, your input. So again, we greatly appreciate tonight. We're hoping it's interactive. Please jump in with anything. We're hoping it's a dialogue. And we're hopeful for many more discussions. So wanted to thank you. I'm going to go into a little bit around first, just an introduction of OpenAI. Sorry, for some reason it's not working. Here we go. So a little bit about us, and then we'll get into some additional information. You may have heard of us before. If not, we are a research and deployment lab. We are based in San Francisco, but we are opening up additional offices throughout the country and throughout the world. We're still small, though. We're about 1,300 people. Our mission is to ensure that artificial intelligence benefits everyone. We were founded in 2015. And basically what we do is we build machine learning tools to help people by acting as an assistant. We want to enhance productivity, creativity, discovery, and that's what we aim to offer with our tools. You may have heard of Chat GPT. That's what we're going to take a deeper dive into tonight. Some people refer to Chat GPT as a chat bot. Other companies have chatbots as well. Our first offering just hit its 2-year mark. And today there's several models and capabilities of Chat GPT. For the purposes of this roundtable, we're going to focus on our free service, which is available to anyone with an internet connection and has a lot of the capabilities that the other models do. Sorry, everyone. So what is artificial intelligence? You've probably heard a lot about this in the past year or two, but exactly what is it? It uses data to help computers learn, recognize patterns, make decisions, support humans in various tasks. Mohammed, my colleague, who I mentioned is here to co-present, is a systems engineer, so he can go into the detail of tech. I work on our strategic partnerships team, so I look to ensure shared benefits and safe adoption of the technology. But basically, what the purpose of AI is to support humans by automating tasks. This means it can do things like learn from experience, recognize patterns, solve problems, analyze data. We believe this is going to have the capability to really help transform things within our society for the better. We also know there's some real challenges and dangers that we all need to discuss and talk about together, which is part of the reason we're here tonight. Um, you may not or may know you use AI in everyday life, or most of us do already. There's different types of AI. We're going to talk about generative AI tonight, which is AI that can help create text and other things. But if you watch Netflix, if you use Waze or another map service, if you have a smartwatch of any type, this all utilizes AI. And so you likely have been already using it. How can AI support educators? If educators, we know that you're busy and that you don't have a ton of time and that the time is really focused on the students. So this, we realize, is just another thing. So why are we asking to go over this? Why are we asking to think about it? After you use AI, our service or others for that matter, you can use it to do lesson plans, personalized learning experiences for individual student goals. That's some of what Mohammed is going to demo tonight with our Chat GPT service. It can help you streamline planning, grading, communication tasks. It can provide targeted supports for students, and it can help you on creative classroom activities. So it has the ability and potential to help you in a variety of ways, make sure that that classroom experience is the best for the kids. Now I think, Rob, we wanted to just take a moment to have a discussion. If people want to put in the chat, or if we want to open it up of, are you using AI already to support your teaching and work, and what's working for you?
So why don't let's use the raise the hand feature and get a couple people. We're not going to get to everybody, but who wants to share? Please raise your hand right now and let's see. Okay. My first one is Michael Iovino. Michael.
I love when people get it right the first time. It's okay. I'm used to all creative pronunciations. EduAid.ai has been extensively useful, and I've been doing workshops on it for teachers in my building and in our union. Claude.ai, only because it was accessible. Chat GPT, of course. I guess the interface for EduAid AI for teachers was what kind of drew me to it, because it provided a lot of key learning objectives. It was broken down into menus and stuff, so it was easier to kind of access what we needed. But those are the two main ones that we use on a regular basis. Gemini for access, circumventing block stuff on the computers. But that's pretty much it. Extremely useful for workload reduction.
Thank you, Michael. I see Tina's got her hand up.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, I had the opportunity to present with some of the wonderful people here in Chicago over the summer. I've been using AI in my work since the week it came out, and I'm now doing AI integration workshops for faculty at CSU and potentially also for UCLA. I'm also in the UC AFT group, and I've been using different types of models and also for staff and students. So there's obviously Chat GPT, Claude, Gemini, as Michael mentioned, and Yeah, I'm looking at both the pros and the cons, as well as different use cases for different disciplines. So not just for STEM, but also writing and faculty. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about. So it's been so far very helpful. Thank you.
So we have time for one more. I'm just waiting for somebody. We got about 50 people on, so somebody's got one more we can go. Who wants to raise their hand? And anyone? Okay, we'll move on. I'm not, let's move on because we are crushed for time. So Debbie?
So let's take a look at Chat GPT. It sounds like some people use this already. So you may have already seen this interface. Basically, Chat GPT, it's text in and text out, just like a human. So you can interact with it. You don't need technical expertise or an engineering degree or coding experience. Trust me, I have none of that. You can interact with it just like you would anyone else. And you can see here, we put a couple of just questions into it so you can see how it actually works. Some practical things that can show you how it actually works. Now let's talk about, we're going to get into a deeper dive on how you can actually use Chat GPT and some best practices. We also really want to keep front and center some of the limitations of Chat GPT and some of the safety measures. As we talked about before, and it sounds like many of you use these tools already, so you can see they can be a powerful tool to assist you. But they have limitations, and they have some things that we want to go over tonight to make sure that we're really focusing together on student well-being and privacy and security. Rob was clear straight off the bat when we met that that was something that was very important to AFT, and we share that as well. So it's not a substitute for engagement with students. I'm sure that you all know that, but nothing can replace the teacher when it comes to that hands-on learning, that personalized instruction, that real-time feedback, that judgment, that experience that an educator brings to the classroom. So ChatGPT can never and will never replace that, but it can help you save time. It can help you, again, provide the best experience for your kids, which is what our goal is. I really want to also call out AFT's Common Sense Guardrails for using advanced technology in schools. Came out earlier this year. We're big fans of that document. And this really maps back to their core value number one, which is promote human interaction and individuality. Also, important to talk about privacy. Again, it sounds like many people already use these tools, but important for us to really recognize that safeguarding student privacy and confidentiality is paramount. We're going to go over here in a minute how you can turn off your training data in Chat GPT. So we're going to show you a clear way to do that, which basically means that nothing you ask Chat GPT will be saved. But we also recommend to prevent any issues and to make sure that you're protecting students at all times, that you not put any personal or sensitive information in the prompts. And we're going to go through that, what prompts mean if you haven't used them. But basically, avoid all personal information about any of your students. Avoid uploading documents or files that might have policies or other things about them or about your students into ChatGPT. And avoid putting anything into the prompts that contain a person's likeness. So you always want to be very mindful of that. And this goes back to AFT's core value number 2, which is always to think about maximizing safety and privacy.
So thank you, Debbie. I'm going to step in here because there's a couple of comments in the chat that I want to talk about. There's a couple about grading and moving forward. These are very important issues, and I want to make sure everybody understands that we are taking these issues very seriously, the ones that came up in the chat around grading and consistency. I actually wrote a blog around these exact issues that will be published very shortly on Share My Lesson, as Kelly knows. And I think that we're going to capture this chat and make sure that we follow up on all these questions you have. So anything that you feel is really important, please do put it in the chat tonight, because that's critically important for us moving forward, you know, in all our work. So I really appreciate those comments from Seth and others. Thank you.
So we wanted to call out how you turn off training data. Chat GPT trains on language, it trains on what it's being asked, it trains on the information that it's given to improve the model. But you can also turn that off if you want to make sure all that your questions are not used by Chat GPT to train. So how you do that is in the settings, you can see, and we'll make sure that people get a copy of this. In the general settings, you'll see improve the model for everyone. You just turn that off, and that will maintain the privacy of the prompts, and will make sure that none of your data is being trained on by Chat GPT. Again, we recommend no matter what, you don't upload any personal information about any student in an abundance of safe caution, but we want to make sure that people saw how they can turn off that training data. If you are a Chat GPT EDU user, it's turned off by default.
And Debbie, that is now part of the free plan, correct? Because when it first initially launched, that was not part of the free version.
The training model, turning it off?
Yes.
That's right. It's on the free and the Chat GPT Plus, which is our subscription model, but that's right, on the free service, which you can download with an internet connection. It's right there in the settings, the general settings.
Yeah, I just wanted to call that out because I know when we initially started even the AI educator brain on Share My Lesson, that wasn't the case. And there's a lot of things that have been moved to the free model. So things have moved fast.
I appreciate that. We have some other safety priorities that we want to point out, but we first wanted to talk a little bit about prompt engineering, since we're talking about that in context with safety. So we wanted to do a couple of top lines about what prompt engineering is, which is how you maximize Chat GPT, and then we're going to come back to safety before we go into a deeper dive together. Mohammed, would you like to go over this, or would you like me to?
Yeah, happy to. So quick introduction for me. Hey, everyone. I'm an engineer with OpenAI. I'll be leading a couple demos, but I wanted to preempt this sort of topic. Real quick, if folks can I get a sort of thumbs up reaction, or in the chat if you've heard this topic of prompt engineering, or just any reaction if this is a term that you've seen or heard about before, just so I can get a sort of gauge of the room. And totally okay if most folks have not. Maybe most folks haven't, which is fine. So we're going to talk about prompt engineering a little bit today. It's the precise definition is it's the art of being specific with what you want out of the models, right? And the key is to getting the best results is to provide very clear context, instructions, and success criteria. And to take a step back a minute, I think one of the things we hear a lot is, we want to be educated on prompt engineering and asking questions in the correct way to these models to get the best response. And one of the big takeaways I want to hopefully pull out of this session is that prompt engineering is not a magical skill. It's something that you just practice. And we're going to show some hands-on examples of this later, but hopefully want to get into the mindset of doing it more and practicing and just asking for more precise outputs, as we sort of talk about here, is going to get you a better response, but certainly not a magical skill that you have to go through any sort of training to understand. So maybe we can go to the next slide and I can talk a little bit more about what do I mean by that. I have a thesis that we actually all prompt engineer every single day and we just don't know it. And part of that thesis is that teachers are actually excellent prompt engineers. And I want to kind of give a couple examples of what I mean by that. So I'm going to show a couple examples of ways to frame a question, and then another way to frame the same question, but might get it but in a way that might yield a better response. So if you can hit the next slide. Once I'm sure most of you have asked the question to a classroom, did everyone understand the assignment? And I think we all intuitively know most folks are just kind of nod their heads and kind of give you a blasé answer. But what happens if you ask it in a different way? Can someone explain this concept in their own words or give an example of how it may be used in real life? You can see the difference between these two questions, right? Ultimately, the objective is the same. We want to see if students understand the concept. But you can see here how framing the question is actually really important. And teachers know this because they talk to students every day, so they have a sense of how these students react. And so framing it in a more precise way actually gets a much better response than just asking it, does everyone understand the assignment? You can hit next. There's another kind of good example. Can you stop interrupting? You can sort of redirect the question to, I can tell you're excited. What's one thing you want to add that helps us stay on track? And then the third example, which I really like, what did you learn at school today? I really like this reframing. What's one thing you learned today that you think I wouldn't know? Which I love the challenge. That people love being challenged. They fall for it every time. So just hopefully this kind of resets the understanding on prompt engineering, right? It's not magic. It's just the way we frame questions and being specific about what we want to get out of it can oftentimes be a very valuable tool. It's the same way with these models. And the key thing is it's using these models is what's going to get you better at prompt engineering versus trying to learn it out of a book. I'm sure no one learned these examples by reading out of a book. It's working with students on a day-to-day basis and seeing how they react is how you pick up this skill of generating these clever questions. So if we go to the next slide, at a high level, the way we think about it is task, context, and specific outputs. And again, I'm going to do a demo of this later, but just want to sort of frame it before we get into the demos. So most folks are usually familiar with the first one, the task. Explain this topic, generate a lesson plan, analyze the data. That part's easy. One thing that's important for these models is helping understand the context of why it's trying to do that. These models are very general purpose and they're explicitly trained to generate the most generic answer just by the nature of their training. So by providing context, you can help focus the model response. So if you say analyze, or one example I love to give is if you have Chat GPT later, ask it to explain gravity, but assuming the role of a third grade teacher, and then watch and see how the answer changes when you say explain gravity as if you're a high school student, and then explain gravity as if you're a PhD researcher. And you'll see that the context makes a significant difference, right? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about explaining gravity, but the context and the persona is going to radically change how the model comes up with a response. And then specifying output in terms of how you want that response to look. So, in these examples, it's informal bullet aligning to a standard. Here's some examples to follow. In the demo later, I'm going to show an idea or a demo of generating a lesson plan. And part of what I want to show is like if you ask the model to produce reasoning, it's going to produce reasoning. But if you don't specify that, it's not going to generate it for you. So half of this is just understanding what are those implicit expectations that we have for the model response and putting those into words. It's a bit of a challenge, but again, using the tool is a really, really great way to pick up this behavior. So again, I'm going to demo.
Mohammed,
Yes, sir.
can I interrupt you? Because
Please.
you just said something that's really important for our people to hear. If you don't ask it for reasoning, it will not give you reasoning. If you could just say one more line about that, because I believe that's one of the most important things that can be said in prompt engineering.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has probably used the tool before. You ask it a question, you wait a second, and you give it a response. It's how we train these models because that's what users are used to. If you do a Google search, you look at the top of the screen, it'll proudly say how quickly it got you the results. So we train these models to respond really quickly, and part of that is just creating a short response. And so if you don't ask for reasoning, if you don't ask for justification, if you don't ask for annotations, it's not going to automatically give it to you because it's going to think that's too much information. And so part of the demo I'll show later is what's the difference between a generated lesson plan that it's just a lesson plan versus a lesson plan with annotations versus a lesson plan with annotations with a sort of executive summary of the changes that we made as we aligned it to an ELL standard. In some cases, you just want the lesson plan. That's fine. You just say, just give me the lesson plan. In some cases, as you're new to this tool, you want to be a little bit more precise so you can see how the model produced its response and made those changes. And that's where the prompt engineering is going to be really valuable. But again, you have to ask for it specifically. Hopefully that helped, Rob. Awesome. I think I'm going to hand it back to Debbie to cover a couple more slides, and then I think we're going into demos after that.
Yes, that's right. Just a couple more things we really wanted to call attention to. One is student well-being and safety and integrity. Again, this maps back to AFT's core value number 1 of ensuring student safety and privacy. We use features to improve the safety of Chat GPT. This includes the detection of harmful language, moderation of prompts that are known to be harmful or dangerous, and disengaging from sensitive prompts or dangerous conversations. While these things are built into ChatGPT, it can still make mistakes, and the safety measures are not perfect. So we want to make sure we call out a couple of things that you really need to be aware of. You may be already, but AI bias, inaccuracies, and inappropriate use. AI bias, that's when the systems will make predictions or generalizations that are harmful or objectionable. Some examples of this are the generation of content with negative representation of people's identities, or if the system gives back answers that are lower level compared to what it might otherwise do. The reason that it does this is because it trains on data that it has, and so it may not have the context, or it may not have the consistency of the data. So it's really important to double check the work. You can also reduce this by thinking about how and when you use generative AI. We have a reporting function, always report objectionable content. And really, these best practices for prompting that we're going over tonight are going to be very important to always keep front and center with the use of ChatGPT. Now I think, Rob, it's time for a deep dive. And I think the first thing we were going to do is start with our educator presenters. I believe that Peter, and I'll stop sharing this.
Yeah, hey everyone. Nice meeting everyone tonight. I did want to go over and just share a couple of things with all the participants here tonight around ChatGPT and how some of the secondary teachers, at least in Rhode Island, are using it. I did create, a Word document. I know I have a limited time. I can't go over everything, but I did try to summarize everything and put it into one document that I will paste the link to the document in the chat. And it's just some different ways that we're using ChatGPT within the document that I just shared. Let me just share my screen here as well. And I know Carlos had mentioned, I believe someone else had mentioned about the grading piece. I'll talk about that in just one second. But let's just open up my screen here, share my Oh, excuse me one second. That's not what I want.
Happened to me too.
Yeah, you know, we are a Google Meet district. So let's see if I can just get to, there we go. Does everyone see my screen here? I believe so.
I can see it.
Awesome, thank you. So a couple of things to keep in mind. I know Deb and Mohammed already talked about this, but the biggest thing with ChatGPT, even though it is 2 years old now, is obviously be aware of the disinformation that it does share, and not to get into the specifics of that because Deb already talked about that, but it does provide some inaccuracies at times, so always check that. And as I mentioned earlier, Carlos and someone else had mentioned the grading or using ChatGPT to grade. I always like to emphasize the 80-20 rule. And even though I completely agree with Carlos, and I apologize for the other person who had mentioned using Chat GPT to grade, if your district allows it and you are okay using it, I always like to think about it as if you were to use it for guided grading, that 80-20 rule, where you're letting AI do some of the repetitive data-driven tasks, while the 20% is you as the teacher kind of personalizing it, making sure it's accurate, and making sure it's meeting the specific learning objectives outlined in whatever you are instructing. I do apologize for any background noise, as I am not home right now. I did also link the AFT Common Sense guardrails there, as well as a podcast that goes over that as well. So that you can find here as well. The free plan, I will say that I am a subscriber to Chat GPT. However, everything that I did and will share tonight is on the free plan. So I quickly just provided what you get with the free plan. Some of the ways quickly that some of the secondary teachers use Chat GPT is to create a vocab story. And I did share this with everyone here, so by all means, please take it. Please grab the prompts. I know Mohammed did a great job talking about prompting, but if you like to use the prompt there to see what you get, by all means, this is yours to use and to refine and iterate and do whatever you like with it. It may get you started if you're not super familiar with prompting. Very simple. I took 10 vocab words. I did ask ChatGPT to create a story based on the student interests, recognizing and providing some contextual factors that students in front of me as a grade 7 English teacher are functioning less than 7th grade. And as you can see there, it did that and identified each of the 10 vocabulary words that I did put in my prompt here. Each page of my document does have a link to the actual chat as well. So you can always click on this chat link and that'll take you to my prompt in Chat GPT. I know Rob talked about it and I believe someone else talked about it, being able to, excuse me, I think it was Mohammed, being able to take perhaps an abstract concept and asking Chat GPT to make it more concrete, especially for students that maybe struggling with that concept. One example I always share from my math teachers out there is taking the Pythagorean theorem and making connections to the real world. Like, why are we learning the Pythagorean theorem? So taking that theorem into Chat GPT and being able to prompt it with a 50-minute lesson plan. Isn't this always the case, right? Let's see if we can reload my Pythagorean theorem chat here. We'll give that a second to come back. But also apply it to, okay, now this is how I can explain the Pythagorean theorem, but also apply it to some real life activities. So part of the examples, or the ideas that were shared in this example were around soccer. So being able to look at a soccer field and look at the different right angles and figure out the diagonals and so on and so forth. The last part I did with this, and hopefully this link would work when someone else clicks on it, is that I asked it to translate it in Spanish in the event that you had ESL or MLL students in your classroom as well. I did give also 2 additional examples on the grading piece just to show you that it can be done regardless on how you feel about it. It is a possibility with Chat GPT. I did include this prompt once again for a persuasive essay assignment where I just took a persuasive essay off of the internet as well as a rubric. Once again, I removed all personal identifiable information from it and then asked it to grade it. I think it was Carlos once again that brought up the, or made mention that doing it twice gave 2 different grades. Once again, we're not, if you are to use it, you're the teacher, of course. And even though it's doing the heavy lifting, as I said, 80% of that work, clearly it's up to you to be able to provide, making sure that it's accurate. One thing I do like about the, let's try it one more time here. One thing I do like about the persuasive essay using Chat GPT, let me just move my picture over. That's not it. is the level of personalized feedback. So part of my prompt here asked finally here in my last part of my prompt to provide a brief positive summary highlighting the paper's strengths and offering encouragement for areas of improvement. You know, that personalization piece and being able to provide that feedback to that student, you know, may help you a little bit in providing descriptive feedback or feedback that's that will help the student improve their writing. I did the same thing with a small assignment that we in Rhode Island, in Cranston, use a program called StudySync. Very similar to the prompts, the persuasive essay prompts, where once again giving it a role or a persona, a task, adding some contextual factors to it, and trying to be explicit as possible. The one thing that I just want to wrap up with in regards to Chat GPT and in regards to the prompt engineering that Mohammed did a great job explaining is recognizing, and it sounds like many of the people here may already be aware of this, but recognizing that, you know, it's just not one prompt and then seeing the result that Chat GPT provides to you. It's being able to kind of refine what you're looking for, you know, and going through the iterations and doing it multiple times until you get exactly what you are looking for in Chat GPT. Those are just some examples that I know we use in Cranston. I'm sure that if we asked a handful of people or a bunch of people in here, they'd be telling me many other different ways that they use Chat GPT at the secondary level. It really is limitless. But once again, you know, it's a matter of being familiar with the prompts, identifying the pros and cons of it, and then kind of playing with it to see if it could help you out. I'm sorry, my links didn't work, but they are all linked in that document.
Yeah, okay,
so
thanks.
Please take a look at it.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. We're going to go to Tiffany.
Hi, everybody. Tiffany Jefferson from Local 2 UFT. Thank you for having me this evening. I was asked to share some ideas for teachers of elementary schools and what they can do and how they might begin using OpenAI and Chat GPT. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm also going to share a link with you so that you can have access to my document. I'll do that at the end. So I'll just talk about it and then I'll share my link. All right. I am looking for my screen for a second. Give me 2 secs. Okay. All right. So here's my handout. I made a 2-pager. And some ways that elementary school teachers can start to think about AI and how they can begin to prepare students when they get older to use it is to build curiosity in the classroom. And so in many ways, I think it's kind of a foundational skill for generating prompt generation, right? To be curious and wonder, right? And in many of our subject areas, we could use ChatGPT to get prompts or sentence prompts that could encourage creativity in our classrooms, right? And curiosity in our classrooms, right? What do you think would happen if, right? This kind of thinking helps them to explore more questions and more ideas. And I think it's kind of a foundational thing. So this could be a technique that can be used in grades K, right? All the way up through high school. But specifically, if we want to help to prepare them for the future, right? We want them to be questioning and asking questions and thinking about things from different angles. And so building this curiosity and building this into your lesson plans can definitely help support your students get ready for AI, right? Another thing that I know elementary school teachers are doing a great deal of is small group instruction. And so there are lots of different things you can use it for, right? You could use it to create small literacy centers, right? Sometimes we have a task to do, but we don't know how to use the time, right? And so here's my prompt. You're an excellent elementary school teacher working with small groups of students on learning how to identify the main idea. You haven't heard that one before. What are some creative ways to work with the groups in 15 to 20 minutes, right? And so I've given it a context and parameters, right? And so it can help me use that time wisely, because when we're with small groups, we want to get in and get out so we can have more than one group for the day. And so using prompting to help, and it can help us plan our time out easier. In addition, you might want to think about interesting ways to use materials. I know in elementary school we have centers, right? In the K-3 or K-2 or even further on. But sometimes you don't have all the materials that you think you need, right? And so you might tell it, you know, I only have a bag of beads. How do I use this to teach my students a concept, right? And it will give you, if you say, oh, give me 3 ways or give me 10 ways I could use this to teach addition, right? It will offer you some ways. So you could tell it what you have and what you have to work with, and it can help you think about how to use it. And so I thinking of it as a thought partner, right? Like, oh, this person or this bot is helping me to think through, you know, how to use resources with my learners. Another thing which, you know, often gets not talked about a lot is our advanced learners, right? They're, you know, sometimes they finish the work and what can we do next with them? And so thinking about how we can advance our learners. I wish I had Chat GPT when I was in the classroom. It would have helped me a great deal with my advanced learners. Because sometimes when you think they have it, you're like, okay, they got it, like read a book or something, right? But there could be ways in which they can deepen and go further within the standards, right? Maybe go to the next grade level with an activity that they can do on their own. Finally, you can use this to develop student worksheets and scaffolds. It can help you, you know, develop different things. I know we have different kinds of learners in our classroom, English language learners. We have students with different interests and things of that nature. And all of those details, we can customize, right, these materials to help support our students. A few more things. I was just thinking about, like, you know, creating culturally relevant math problems. And when I say culture, I'm not only talking about people's family, their religion, or, you know, the culture. There are lots of different cultures. There's kid culture, right? They're into video games. They're into Minecraft, right? How can we make the learning a little bit more relevant by asking ChatGPT how we can do that, right? So you could generate culturally relevant math problems. Somebody shared this the other day and I was like, oh, that's cool. Our colleague Kathleen was talking about using AI with her young writers, right? Using it to create images and helping them to get started with writing, using sentence starters, right? So you can also get these from AI. We also often want to give students a model of some sort, right? And maybe we can make it customized to their interests and their needs, right? I know some students have a genius that they really adore, right? One kid may love trains, another kid may love teddy bears, right? And so we could customize these models to help meet their needs. And so we can do that in a jiffy. I also was thinking about how we can support social and emotional learning. We talked about that human to human connection and, you know, teaching our students to affirm who they are and what they want to do in class and how they want to present in the world is important. And we can also get ideas about how we can help build that confidence by trying out a prompt like this. Generate daily affirmations for second graders, specifically working on their confidence and persistence to learn. I came up with, and when I put it in, it came up with so many, right? So many. Put one on the board per day, right? To help with that piece. Because not only are we cultivating their knowledge, but we're cultivating their hearts and their minds, and all very important when we're growing and teaching students. Finally, I was thinking about what Muhammad was talking about earlier, or I don't know, our other presenter, I forgot your name, sorry, about the persona and how we could create a space for ourselves that could help us to create a little flavor in the classroom, right? I created a persona here. I asked it to create a persona that is an expert on various land masses, right? And I asked it to be able to tell jokes to the students, and it's for 4th grade, and it should be able to respond to questions on land mass. And it was so cute. They gave the chatbot a name. His name was Terrence Terrain, and he could tell you all about, he could tell you all about, so you could chat, the teacher, the educator could chat with this bot, right? And get some tips on what you're going to put in your lesson plan, right? Tell those jokes and, do the dad jokes with your 4th graders. I think all of those things matter, right? All of those moves matter to create a welcoming and affirming environment, to create a space of joy and learning. And we can't think of it all, but now we have this new assistant and this new tool to help us get started. And I hope that you might try some of these techniques. You put in your, specifics for the output, and use some of these ideas in your classroom. I'll drop my link to this document for your use. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Tiffany. Thanks a lot. I like some of those ideas with the chatbot and some of that. That was pretty good. Our next education presenter is Michael Harris out of Wichita, Kansas, United Teachers of Wichita. Michael.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening and for allowing me the opportunity to talk to you as we discuss how artificial intelligence has a potential to really transform special education and English language learning and our education space for our professionals. So I'm really excited to be here from Wichita. Wichita has been involved in these projects involving AI with the American Federation of Teachers from the jump. And the big thing that we've been working with AFT to do is find a way to add educator voice into the development of tools. And as part of that project last year, we invited teachers from across our school district. We have 90 buildings in Wichita. We are a large urban district with a 78% poverty rate. We are the most diverse district in our state. We have the most number and the largest scope of different special education exceptionalities and the largest number of students with needs in that space. And originally, when we started talking about the use of artificial intelligence, it wasn't to be focused on special education. But when we brought our educators in and started to talk to them, what we found was the people that showed up were our special education professionals. And a lot of that was because of the workload issues they're facing right now and looking for ways to solve that problem. So we've got a buzz in Wichita amongst our teachers, and specifically our special education and our ELL teachers, who see this potential for AI use. And with this workload concern, I hope tonight to inspire you to think about how you can take the skills and the prompt engineering and the guidance from the AFT guardrails with the expertise from OpenAI, and think about how you can revolutionize your work and make it more efficient and impactful while freeing you up as educators to do the thing that you need to do, which is, to Rob's point from the beginning, teaching students and facilitating the learning of students and being that teacher that you want to be. So, I practiced this earlier and now I'm not going to know how to change slides. I did this. There we go. Now I got to change it on this one too. I'm going to get this. All right. So here's the opportunity you all have with AI. And the last few presenters really worked with you specific prompts. And we're going to talk about some specific prompts and ideas, but I really want you just thinking about how you can, as a practitioner in special education or in English language learning, use these tools in your classroom. The challenges that you face specifically in managing time-intensive administrative tasks and more importantly, in personalizing instruction for students with diverse needs while having to coordinate all of this work across multidisciplinary teams creates new challenges for educators. And in a time of limited resources and with limited time, finding solutions to overcome this becomes important. So the thing that we are looking towards in our community is ways to use AI as a powerful partner for our educators, not as a replacement for our teachers, but as a partner that can help streamline the workflows and help automate the documentation in some of the production of tools and enhancing that personalization and team collaboration. And, you know, to what Tiffany was just saying, and we're talking about personas, I was talking about the chief information officer in our district, and we were literally talking about like allowing special education teachers to have personas that are built in with the state standards and the curriculum for the classes that they're teaching that takes into consideration of the needs of the students that are on their roster and the data we have about those students, not to take us out of the decision-making process of what is best for the students, but to speed up the process and allow us to take the lead in using our expertise to tailor this experience for the kids. You know, I think this is relevant for all of us as educators, regardless of if you're in a school district like mine, with a large urban district with a multitude of needs. It doesn't matter if you're an elementary, a middle, or a high school student. If you're in an urban or a suburban or a rural district, what we are able to do utilizing the tools of the AI, that the AI is adapt to meet your unique needs where you are. And that's the thing that AFT and I hope to do to work with you to do. So let's look at some places that we are seeing some specifics right now. Now, I'll take you outside of Wichita first and go in a little different route. Imagine if you're a rural middle school teacher in Kansas and you're in a small district that's lacking resources and you have a student who has an IEP that has a unique intersection of something like ADHD and dyslexia. Even if you don't have resources and support in your district or access to tools to help you with something you may not have expertise, using AI tools like Chat GPT and learning how to build prompts to appropriately create what you need, you can have the ability, if you're a teacher in a place like this, to draft a scaffolded science lesson plan that's not just tailored to the class, but tailored to the specific IEP goals of your student. And if you think about that, like ADHD and dyslexia, you're talking about sensory accommodations. You're using AI to make visual aids to aid in that tool for that kid. And all of these things that you're doing, it's not that we don't have the ability to do these things already. It's about allowing the tool to do it for us quicker so that we can put our energy back on working with the student. Bringing it back home to Wichita, like our teachers have shared as they've started to use AI in special education, one of the biggest places that's made a difference for them is in progress note tracking, right? Being able to create individualized tracking methods to track student growth around specific goals in a fast and meaningful way around objective criteria. And, you know, I won't get into the rubric side of things and the grading side of things because I think Peter did an excellent job of all of that already. But you can already see, no matter where you're situated, you can find a place to apply this tool. It's already helping, as we've seen with lesson planning and progress tracking. We're also seeing where we're using, like in our transition special education program, where we're helping students prepare for colleges and career and using AI in that transition planning, where it's analyzing resources in our communities and opportunities in our community to match kids with the appropriate environment to create success for them post K-12 education. So a couple of thoughts as I move to closing, and I talk too much, so I apologize already, but as a framework for all this, I just wanted to put out there, like, remember before diving in, the AFT guardrails really prioritize safety and privacy. If we use these guidelines, we will avoid putting that sensitive data into the prompts. We've already talked about reviewing AI outputs for accuracy and compliance. I've been watching the chat, and I understand that's of utmost concern for everybody, and I share that. But for you all tonight, instead of giving you specifics, I just want you to think about this before Mohammed takes over and starts working you through prompts. Just start small. Figure out where you are and your comfortability with it. And as you're looking at things, try a small task. Draft a lesson plan. If you're a special ed teacher, include an IEP goal in that IEP prompt. Start small where you are and don't feel overwhelmed. And then the second thing I would encourage you to do is, as you all start to use these tools and to play with these tools, like the best word of mouth to enhance this AI transition for everybody in education is to work together, collaborate, and to talk about what we're doing. Share your successes, share what's working, share your lesson plans. Thank you, Kelly, for putting the share your lesson on AI in here. By collaborating and sharing, we can really work together and make progress so that teacher voice is included and that we transition to using these tools most effectively. So I will give you a couple things to think about, just some ideas related to special education and English language learning. You know, as far as lesson plan creation goes, if you're in special education, some of the things that you can add to your prompt to give it that specificity is, you know, it's not just like creating a math lesson for a 7th grade student in a X class. It's including then a 7th grade student with dyscalculia. And then to Peter's point, tell them exactly what the lesson plan needs to have in it. What are the pieces that you need to be successful at where you are? If you're turning it into the district, it may need to have more than if you just need something beside you during the lesson to help you out. It can include step-by-step instructions, visual aids, alignment to state standards, alignment to specific curriculum, alignment to state and federal standards related to special education or district policies related to special education and English language learners. Talking about progress tracking, an easy prompt is something as simple as like generate a weekly progress report template for a student with ADHD, focusing on IEP goals and reading and social skills, and then giving it the exact accommodation and goals that you need related to the student IEP. The other one that I think our teachers have found a lot of excitement is just like utilizing it to draft parent communications, because you're having to have a lot of specific conversations around specific deadlines with parents. So learning how to create prompts to draft an email to a parent explaining how their child's IEP goals are being met and addressed with the tools provided by the accommodation in their IEP plan, and allowing that, especially if you built an AI that includes data sets, to do some of that work. So I hope you are creative and imaginative in how you think about these tools and how they could save you time, and think about simple ways to make your daily work easier using the things that you take from this.
Hey, thanks, Mike, and everybody on this meeting knows the complex nature of special ed and other teaching in schools and the workload that they have to deal with. Everybody understands that and understands how difficult those tasks are. And so we're going to go back to the slides here, I believe. Debbie?
Yes. Let me. Let's see. Okay.
There we
Everybody
go.
see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So thank you so much to Tiffany and Peter and Michael for your examples and for sharing them with the group. We really appreciate that. And we wanted to take you through exactly what this would look like using Chat GPT. And I just want to give a shout out to Kelly, who's on the Zoom tonight, who hosted us on a Share My Lesson AI Educator Brain recently, where we went through prompt engineering and used this example. And it really resonated well with the group. So we wanted to present it here tonight, and that's, I think, where Kelly coined the term teachers are the OG prompt engineers, which we agree. So thank you for that. So I'm going to turn it back over to Mohammed, and he's going to walk you through what this looks like with a prompt that's okay, an improved prompt, and then the best. And he'll take you through an example of the ELL standards.
Awesome, thanks. First of all, shout out to Kelly since she's the one who gave me this idea. So the idea with this example, and we're going to share out the prompts. So if you have time, you can try it out for yourself. I want to give an example of aligning lessons plans to a particular ELL standard. So what I'm going to show here is this area of like good, better, and best set of prompts for taking a lesson plan, an approved lesson plan, and aligning it to a particular ELL strategy for that purpose. So you can see here maybe a one a sentence prompt. Please generate a lesson plan for me, abiding by those ELLs and standards. I'm attaching 2 documents. This is an okay prompt. And if you remember, I spoke earlier about those 3 ingredients, right? You had your task, you had your persona, and then you had or your task, your context, and then your desired outputs here. So we have here the task, right? We wanted to generate a lesson plan abiding by ELL standards. Model should know what ELL is, but it's a bit sparse, right? It's not very specific on what you're looking to get out of it. It's very, very direct. And so the first modification that I might suggest, if we can go to the next slide, is to start with that persona. So to assume the role of an educator, and I'm going to provide you with an ELL strategy and a lesson plan. So if you imagine, you have a student teacher, very bright, fresh out of school, you gave them this same assignment, just said, here's the 2 documents, convert it. Maybe they know what the lesson plan is and what the ELL strategy isn't. But it's always helpful to just clarify, like, here are the 2 documents that you're going to be primarily using. And that's the same thing for these models. You want to be able to you want to be very, very clear about what you're providing it and what the models are going to do with it. So this is what I would consider to be better. And then if we go one prompt further, we get one step further, you get sort of the good, better, best. You get that particular persona, or sorry, the context that we talked about in terms of expert educator. We have the task, which is to convert the lesson plan, make it fully compliant with the desired strategy. And additionally, we talk a little bit about what sort of the expected outcomes are in terms of flagging this developing standard and Rob and I, we talked a little bit about that reasoning. So I always encourage folks, if they're new to this technology, to explicitly ask it to flag any specific changes or explain its reasoning or to annotate specific changes to the lesson plan. It's a great way to sort of see what are the changes that you actually made, or walk me through those specific changes. So if I see that your logical reasoning is not sound, I know exactly what I need to fix on the follow-up prompt. And one thing to think through is that it's not maybe good, better, best is not necessarily the perfect way to frame it. It's really an iterative process, right? We consider these chatbots because it's a back and forth conversation. So you can also consider it of, you're going to give it a lesson plan and an ELL standard and ask it to convert it. And then the second one is, okay, that was a good attempt, but now I want you to tailor it a little bit more to this particular level 3 standard. And I also want you to rewrite it with those changes. So I don't necessarily want to put forth the idea you have to have this perfect prompt. It can certainly be a interactive sort of conversation, but always good if you set all that context up front early, because that's what these models, that's how you can help guide these models to be much more higher quality responses from the get-go versus having to guide it to that solution. So I think we can provide these prompts and some sample data sets, but I would really encourage you, regardless of whichever AI platform you're using, to try these prompts out and see for yourself what the difference is. For some folks, it's, you just want like a very quick and dirty answer, and that first prompt is good enough. But I would imagine that a lot higher quality responses are going to come from this third one, this best one, where we're much more specific on task, context, and the desired output. So go ahead and hit the next slide. is what I would consider a gold star. And so just some couple final reminders. And I think we're going to hand it back for a little bit of discussion. Would love to hear your thoughts. It's really about giving more context to the model about what you're trying to have it solve. They're very, very general purpose tools. That's what makes them great. But because they're general purpose tools, they're going to give you general answers. So being precise is extremely important. Examples are incredibly valuable. So if you have with this example I just did with the lesson plan, if you have an example of, hey, here's a really great lesson plan. Actually, here's 3 great lesson plans. I want you to follow that example as you generate a new one. That's actually a very powerful tool because these models are very good at pattern matching. So it's very proficient at seeing a couple of examples and applying that pattern to a new task. I mentioned the general answers piece. I mentioned breaking it into multiple prompts. And again, I highly encourage you to not put sensitive information in until you have sort of the approved Chat GPT EDU. And it again, totally not a substitute for educator engagement, but certainly hopefully a tool that you can use to speed up some of the non-engaging work and eliminate some of those repetitive tasks. So I want to pause there and then maybe hand it back over to Rob for a little bit of that discussion.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to be running the discussion. I'm going to ask Kathy to do it. I know Kathy's on. Kathy, can you just kind of lead us through this discussion a little bit?
Sure. So this has been a great discussion. And what I'm going to ask you to do, there's about 45 people is still in this with us, and that's really hard to have a conversation with. So please, everybody open your chat, look through and use your chat, and I will kind of guide that discussion that way. I have been monitoring the chat throughout, so I have a couple of comments on some folks have said about some of these things. So let's first talk about the big elephant in the room is the concerns and anxieties. What are we concerned about? So, and add more to the chat, but I can tell you what's already been put in the chat is that it seems to be trial and error. And why are we wasting our time on trial and error? Images don't really come up to what I want them to be. The time it takes to learn this in order to use this. It definitely will save us time in the long run, but we have to understand it's taking time for us to learn it. And my own personal aside on that one is, like every other education initiative, we have to provide time for teachers to have professional learning like this and a lot more in order for us to relieve the concerns and anxieties. So if anybody wants to put something else in the chat that you want to add in, I can talk a lot about other things. Yeah, Tiffany, thank you. Is it worth the investment? It is definitely worth the investment. You will be able to learn these tools and use them efficiently, and then it does save you time in the long run. But like any other initiative, we have to learn, how to use it and use it in the best way possible. There was another comment in the chat about like who is responsible for the AI errors? Well, we are. Any user is. The ethics around AI is that it does make mistakes. And I don't really like the word that some people have floated about hallucinations. It really isn't hallucinations. It's not really errors. It's just that remember that it's a bot. It's pulling information together and then giving you an output. It is our responsibility to fact check, and it's our responsibility to teach students how to fact check. So yes, thanks, Tiffany, that it is worth the investment. The concern about images not being the output you want, this is the worst. Yeah, this is a great quote, Gabby. Thank you very much. Well, what we are seeing today in AI is the worst version it'll ever be. It is only getting better, and it gets better not even day to day. It gets better hour by hour. Cynthia, yay! Local unions need to partner with their districts to be a partner in the professional development. Use your contract language. Yeah, we are in the right place for that kind of discussion, aren't we? And we are doing that. The AFT is doing that. We are partnering with OpenAI and Microsoft and other things in order to provide the best professional development to you. So yes, that's great that you are thinking about that. So let me ask you about the next question, because I also have like a third question. What do you think AI is best used for in the classroom? I know in the elementary schools in my district, we are not asking teachers to do it if student facing. It's just teacher facing in the elementary schools. But our district created policy, and we are this year allowing our high school teachers to assign tasks that allow kids to use some AI tools that we choose. Yeah, so Michael is saying that he is focused mainly on the workload reduction. That definitely helps. So how else are people using AI? We had 3 teachers that gave us 3 really, or actually each one of them gave us multiple examples of how to use this at in the elementary, secondary, and for special ed. How else are people using AI? As an enhancement, not a replacement? That's great. Personally, I think Tiffany mentioned that that I like really using it for writing. It's really helping me with my youngest learners to give them the ideas. For those of you who don't work in an elementary school, when you ask a young writer to write a story, the biggest hurdle for them to achieve is, what do I write about? Well, when I go in with AI and I start throwing some images up on the board and say, talk about this. That's a great story. Can you write that down? And I throw another image up. Tell me about this. And they start collaborating and telling me a story about it. Great. Can you work together and write that story? Thank you, Carlos. Yep. Teaching kids what AI is and what it is not is definitely what we need to do. My third question, though, that kind of relates to these last 2 is, what are the benefits to teachers? Forget kids for a moment. What are the benefits you see for teachers for incorporating AI? I mean, I know that one of the things that we really need to think about is teaching kids how to fact check. And I think that's one of the missing things we did when social media came out. We didn't teach kids how to fact check social media. Oh, Gabby, teaching media literacy. And Mike mentioned the fact that librarians used to do that. And if you still have librarians in your districts, yay, our librarians are fabulous for that. They teach digital literacy. They teach kids how to fact check. They teach kids how to research. Research is fact checking. And that is, I mean, if nothing else, this is a time where you can use the wave of AI to maybe negotiate back getting librarians back in, because they are really critical to this process. This might be a way to get those back into your schools. We, in my district, we do have librarians all the way K through 12. And our librarians do have a digital media and digital literacy curriculum that they use. I'm still looking. Teachers need to understand AI before handing it to students. Absolutely. Again, the importance of using professional development, and here we are, not only district level professional development, but look to your union and look to the sources. I mean, every one of those AI, like OpenAI, and all the other partners that we've been using with building PD. Look to the sources. They provide PD. OpenAI has got some great PD for teachers out there. Microsoft's got some great PD for teachers out there. Conmigo, if you use that, has great PD for teachers out there. So the AI companies themselves really are talking to teachers. So that's a really important thing to know, and to go to them and say, I need this, I need help with this, or look to their PD supports. Oh, thank you. Somebody, Mari, you finally said it. Navigating the biases of the AI content. I was wondering when somebody was going to go to bias. So yes, we have to be able to, again, that's the fact checking piece. We have to be able to educate our students that there is bias in a conversation with AI, just like there is a bias in having a conversation with a person. We have to understand what that bias is and be able to have a conversation about that. So it's a little different having that conversation with AI than a person, but it's definitely there. It does come up, and we have to make sure that kids are able to recognize it and then work around it. So thank you for bringing that up, Mari, because I was wondering whether, I was surprised I didn't see it in the chat earlier. I also have to say that, Mike, when you were talking about your the special ed things, when people ask me, what is the best part of AI? Like, why as a teacher should I bother giving this time? Differentiation of materials is the _1 thing teachers can do with AI. Even if you're not a special educator or an MLL teacher, if you're just the regular run-of-the-mill teacher in the classroom, you still have unique learners in front of you. You have kids that need to hear things auditorially, need to see visuals, need to write or read. Because we all have unique learners, AI gives us the opportunity to take our general curriculum and make it move to those unique learners' abilities. And that is a powerful, powerful rationale for using AI in our classrooms. Tina, thank you. Your students have been really great at finding biases that in podcasts. That's awesome. That's great. Sharing with friends what I've learned tonight. That's wonderful. Thank you. The ideas we're talking about show the importance of knowing the difference between teacher and student-facing AI. Thank you, Rob. You're absolutely right. Teachers need to understand this way before you give it to students, and be ready to have some really interesting conversations with kids. I'm a coach in my district, so I work pre-K through grade 12 and sometimes the 18 to 21 population. And I am in first grades doing, my image writing stuff. And I am in our career and technical school working on using AI to develop materials for event planning and tourism in one of our career and tech programs. And so they're developing hotels and restaurants and all sorts of things. And that has been a lot of fun to have them create with AI. I don't want to take over my time. I know that Rob has some closing statements, and it's 7:21, so I don't want to go too far, but the chat's been great. I'm really thrilled that we are going to capture this chat to give us some direction. Kelly, thank you. Don't fall for a tool that requires you to pay for it. Yep. Try it first. In my district, I don't know about other districts, but in my district, we're broke. So we don't use anything that we have to pay for. We're doing all free stuff. So, thank you to OpenAI for giving us this so that we can use it for free for our teachers, because that's what we need. And I agree. We should all be able to try things that we can play with first, and then choose to whether or not we need to pay for it. But there's a lot of stuff out there right now competing for our attention, and a lot of the free tools are really good. And OpenAI is one of those free tools that we can use that is really good.
Hey, Kathy,
Rob, I'm going to pass it off back to you.
Yeah, Kathy, thank you very much for that. That was great. And I'm telling you that the chat really fired up there. That was really good. Really appreciate it. Remember, when we talk about this stuff, we have to be honest. We have to be open, and our eyes have to be wide open. I want to say that again. The AFT doesn't go in this without our eyes wide open. We're working with companies that, OpenAI is not right now, but we work with companies that are for profit. We work with other things. These are eye wide open information that we know about. And so I just want to be very clear that all the issues that you bring up and more, we want to hear. I can't stress that enough. We're going to send out an email after this is over to get your overall feedback. But please put that in there. These are very important. It's not that we need to hear that. We need to address all those things. One of the things that wasn't mentioned earlier, I saw it in the chat, was the natural resources and the issues around the use of natural resources around AI. That is absolutely part, and actually that was an issue that we were talking about just the other day at the AFT. So I just want to make sure that we have to capture all those things. Debbie?
So appreciate that, Rob, and thank you. Agree, the chat was really informative and helpful. I know we didn't get to all the questions. There were some specific questions back here to the team at OpenAI, but we will make sure to get all those questions answered. And important to know what you're thinking, how you're experiencing this. It's part of the reason that we're so appreciative to AFT and to each of you for joining us here tonight and for undergoing and taking the time to share with us. We want to know your thoughts and what you're experiencing in the classroom. AI bias, clearly, I was kind of rushing through that piece to get us to the deeper dive. I think in future future roundtables, if AFT agrees, we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive on that, of how you actually report it on the platform, ways that it's really important, because it's something that is of great concern to us here at OpenAI. And it is, as Rob mentioned, so important. That's why student facing rather than teacher facing rather than student facing is so important. So just want to underscore that. Also really want to thank our educator presenters for going through how they use this to help them in their everyday lives. Hear you loud and clear that this is an investment of time, and we're trying to make that just super easy for you to make this practical. So as part of the resources, we've done some best practices of the prompt engineering. You'll get that as part of the package after this roundtable that gives you not only what Mohammed presented tonight, and you can just kind of play around with that with Chat GPT or any other service that you might be using. Again, really emphasize for you to go into the settings. You'll receive the deck and turn off that training data if you'd like to keep that private. But we'll send you that, as well as just a really simple checklist of the best practices on prompts, and recommend that you just go through that. I really just want to express my appreciation to AFT. Thank you, Rob, for your leadership. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to close this down here. First of all, I want to thank OpenAI, Mohammed, Debbie, and I noticed there are some other people from OpenAI on this that didn't get to speak today. I want to thank all of you. We appreciate the partnership. We appreciate the openness and the willingness to bring educators in and lead forward. It was a wonderful discussion. I also want to thank our educator presenters. I mean, it's not, they have full-time jobs. They're working very hard, and they took time out to help us here tonight. And finally, I want to thank everybody that's on this Zoom call tonight. We had close to 50 people. I will speak directly from President Weingarten, who I work for. We want to thank you for what you do. It's not an easy task, and you work very hard. And here you are taking your time to learn a few more things to just be better at what you do. It's missed many times by the public, but it's not missed by us at AFT. We are honored to represent you. We are honored to represent you, and thank you for all you do for the children that you teach and the people you interact with every day. We are honored to represent you on a daily basis. And so thank you very much. And I hope you have a great holiday season. Debbie, final word.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Have a great holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks again.